Oh, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Strange. I'm a cartoonist, novelist, and independent filmmaker, and I'm here today to work on comics live on YouTube. Before we get started, you can click on the link in the description to my Patreon page where you can read all my comics, all my novels, and watch all my movies for only $2.99 a month. You get almost 20 years worth of Strangeville shenanigans at your little fingertips, including two of my newest comic books, Wizard of Ganj, which is about the origin of the famous Colombian smoke weed, the weed that Nixon and Hogan sell in Strangeville. It's sort of origin story where it comes from. We get into that here in the first issue of Wizard of Ganj. So I have Too Many Dabs, which is the story of Frankie, a guy who hangs out at the Strangeville Pizza and Weed Shop where Nixon and Hogan chill and read comics and pizza and smoke weed. And they challenge old Frankie here to a dab smoking contest. And he accidentally blasts his consciousness into outer space where Nixon and Hogan appeared to him as machine elves. And Ebenezer Scrooge, A Christmas Carol style, show him all the wrongs of his life. So you can check those out on the Patreon, linked below. And right now I'm finishing pages for my upcoming book. I'll show you that here. Count KEEFULA, aka Dracula in Strangeville, is my new book. It's going to hit the Patreon in October. No extra cost there for your little $2.99 a month. You get access to my brand new book. This is about what pages is this? This is a 28-page comic, one shot. It's got Halloween flavor to it. Old Count Dracula himself breezes into Strangeville and causes a bunch of shenanigans, and our pals Nixon and Hogan have to try to deal with that shit. So look for that on October 1st, if we can get these pages done. So we got to work on one today, gang. And you can jump in the comments anytime and ask questions, whatnot. Be happy to answer them. It's early here in Strangeville today. I was up not super late, but I was up. What is the background layer, and then this, the background texture layer. Doing some kettlebell routines, trying to get the old body back in some kind of shape other than round. And, that's been going pretty well. So we'll start off with the background here. So I do all of my pencils in on 11x17 Bristol board. All these suckers. And then I ink and letter and color and finish and Clip Studio Paint, which is the program we're in right now. Here. And let's drop in some. Good. put a little nonsense. You know, I put a little nonsense in the background, even if there's no. We've established this this location, Nixon's living room. We established it way back several pages ago, so I don't need to put a background into every single panel. It's all going to get hidden mostly by the dialogue. Anyway, you know me, gang. Wordy. There's a lot of dialogue in my comics, and so it's not necessary to have detailed backgrounds in every single. So sometimes just a swoopy line and some gradient is plenty. Yeah, I was throwing around the kettlebells last night. Pretty good. We're gonna go on a walk here in a little bit. I go out to this local park and do a lot of walking. It's a beautiful park. It allows me to kind of get my thoughts together as much as one can in these heady days of post late stage capitalism, post pre-apocalyptic society. When I'm driving around this, busted ass little joke of a small town I live in, I hate to be disparaging of my little town, but it's just been ruined by drugs and homelessness and the riffraff from St. Louis bleeding down into my once peaceful little community. It's like when I'm driving around here, you know how in Mad Max, 1, it's like the world is still being like held together by a thread, and there are people living in it that are still trying to operate within the rules of a civilized society while it falls apart around them. That's how I feel when I look around my formerly precious little town. I see what roils just under the surface. Chaos brewing, begging to be unleashed. And trying to build my body into something that can survive the coming boogaloo that we will shortly find ourselves in. Desperately trying to acquire some land that I can bug out to. Things start to get more out of control than they already are. Things are barely under control as it is. And I know you guys can feel it too, especially if you live in these small towns. You can feel the restlessness of the collective consciousness, just ready to break free from this slow death and just bring it on. You know what I mean? Just bring on whatever this is headed. Let's just get there. It's kind of the zeitgeist in the air. Yeah. So I like to go on walks and try to get my head together. Thinking maybe this needs to be dark because all of their skin tone, it's kind of this background is blending into their skin tone. So I think maybe that. Start over here. And I think maybe we need to go darker. This color, maybe a little bit darker. Oh, good. Throw something dark in there. And then throw light texture over it. And that kind of pops them out from the background better than what's happening there with the lighter stuff. So I like that better. See what I'm saying? That pops them out in that background way better. There's that lighter strip back there. I'm going to go ahead and throw shadows on these, although there's not really a reason for it. Because you can't see their feet on that bottom panel. But I'm going to throw a bit of shadow in there. I don't know what happened there. There we go. Shadow. And we're just going to put the little hint of shadow right there. Kind of grounds them, even though you can't see their feet, it still kind of grounds them into the page. You would imagine that their feet would be here and here, and the shadow would kind of come around. All that. I kind of faked it a little bit up a little higher than it probably would be, but who cares? This is my world. I can cartoon however I want, right? This is the only thing that keeps me halfway sane, is to create unhinged unreality in the form of cartoons and comic books. And as I've been saying lately, I'm using the comic book medium to document the fall of the Western Empire. Got a great, started a cartooning, I'm sorry, I started a comic book review show in the tradition of the late, great Ed Piskor. The industry, the professional comic book industry killed Ed Piskor, but his legacy will live on. And I want to be a part of that. And while me and nobody else, I believe, can ever, maybe not ever, but Ed was a once in a generation cartoon historian, comic book historian, and there's not going to be another guy with as much game as he had for a long, long time. But those of us, there are those of us who are going to attempt to fill that void of comic book criticism and review. And yeah, in that vein, I started a comic book review show here on my channel, and I have an Ed Piskor episode that's about to drop at 9 a.m. my time, which is a little over an hour from now. I've also got videos on some of my favorite creators, like and comics like Johnny Ryan's Prison Pit, which is one of my all-time favorite comics. It's gnarly, black and white, goofy, ultra violent, 700-page comic that is brilliant in its silliness and simplicity and absurdity. I also have videos up on Sam Keith and the Max, another Sam Keith, one of my favorite cartoonists of all time, one of the weirdest cartoonists to ever break into mainstream comics and work for the big two and kind of buck that house style that Marvel and DC are known for, and just create some wild comics. And his chief creation, what he's most known for, the Max. I have a focus video just on the Max. I have one on Sam Keith, and then I have one that focuses just on the Max. And that one's pretty good. If you're a Max fan, or if you're not a Max fan, if you don't even know what I'm talking about, it's a pretty good primer, pretty good intro into a fantastic, weird 1990s time capsule, basically a comic that wouldn't be produced in any other era. It's a good show to check out, and a very faithfully done cartoon exists, animated series that aired on MTV, and most people that know about the Max only know about the Max through the TV cartoon. Probably aren't even aware there is a comic book that the show was based on. That's my ultimate goal here at Strangeville Comics. Love to produce this stuff as an animated series. I've got some very short, like 1 minute scripts written that can be produced. Kind of on this like no budget level that I work on. I think I could do it if I just took the time and energy and effort. I think I could do a 1 minute of animation. I don't know if once a month is too ambitious. 1 minute of animation every quarter, maybe 4 of them a year. I think I could do more than that. I don't think that's too ambitious, but I don't know how to animate. And even Clip Studio has its own animation tools that are already here at my fingertips. It truly is just a matter of sitting down and taking a month and really watching some tutorials and practicing for a while, and then getting my 1 minute Strangeville cartoons animated. That would be exciting. Post them here on the YouTube channel. Try to garner some interest. If that has some success, I could always crowdfund a 30-minute pilot. That would take considerably longer, maybe give it a year. To do a more ambitious 30-minute pilot that we could then pitch to the networks and the streamers. Maybe get us a Netflix deal or a Tubi deal or HBO Max deal, and start producing Strangeville cartoons, where I take this absurdist take on postmodern Western world, postmodern, hypersexualized, hypermasculine modern woman, which I like. I take the piss out of in just about every comic I make. These women are just deranged, hypersexualized, crazy people, much like the women that I observe on social media. Just out of control. And suffering no consequences for their insane shenanigans. It's a recurring theme in Strangeville stories. And that would be fun to do as an animated series. I think that Strangeville is perfect. For a translation into a sort of cult animated series in the vein of like Rick and Morty. I don't know why I'm doing that. That's not the direction. Shadows go. Definitely check out that Ed Piscor video. I review his comic book WYSIWYG. Most people know Ed as one half of cartoonist kayfabe, as the guy who reviews comic books on YouTube, but he was also a very prolific cartoonist in his own right. And we'll spend a lot of time on this channel on our review show, Strangeville review show, going over Ed's life's work. I own just about all of it in my collection, save for a few issues of X-Men Grand Design, and I don't own Hip Hop Family Tree. And then I don't own his work with Harvey Pekar. But I own everything else he's ever done. And we're going to do lots of shows about it here on the channel because I believe Ed's work is important, not only as a comics historian, but as a cartoonist in his own right. He's an important voice. His work recurring theme in his work. If a recurring theme in my work is like out of control hyperfeminism and the absurdity of modern culture, a recurring theme in Ed's work was the misanthropic loner, terminally online misanthropic loner that gets into some kind of trouble, often with the law, and ends up having to resort to drastic measures like suicide to escape the consequences of the character's behavior, which is very dark if you're familiar with Ed Piscor's story, real life story. And so I think it's important to highlight all those stories he told from that perspective, when ultimately, some would say ironically, that's how he met his untimely demise. IRL. So I kind of go over WYSIWYG with that in mind, and I think it's pretty cool. Pretty cool video. Any more to come on that subject? We're going to finish up this page here, and then I'm going to head out to the park. Get my walk in for the day. My Christopher walk in for the day. Sometimes when I go out there, I chit chat on the phone with some pals, talk about movies, comics, crazy social current events from time to time. Sometimes I listen to music when I'm out there and try to get a nice vibe going. This last week I was listening to the first album from Hollywood Undead, which is just wild. It's a time capsule to the early 2000s. The kind of lyrics and shit that just would not, it's kind of misogynistic lyrics that just would not go over today, and they crack me up. It's such like frat boy. It's like frat boy. They're like frat boy anthems, and there's nothing that modernity hates more than the empowered masculine young white male. And Hollywood Undead is like the Monster Energy drink of hypermasculine young white males, and the lyrics of the songs reflect that, and it cracks me up. And they're also, real driving, hard hitting songs, so it's easy to like walk fast too, get a nice sweat going as I'm like rocking out to these guys talking about, getting big titty, getting big titty girls at, frat parties drunk and having sex with them, and just being drunk all the time, doing drugs. It's hilarious music. I love it. And you never see anything like that today. Hilarious. We have the polar opposite in this culture. It's just big fat women, uh, big fat masculine women, and just I do what I want. I don't need no man. Just awful, like, you know, it wasn't my fault. I didn't do nothing. I've had 27 abortions, and I'd have 27 more. Just this no accountability culture for women. It's like the polar opposite of the like frat boy culture. It's interesting and sad and silly that are, instead of like correcting for like common sense, our culture just corrects back and forth between like toxic, awful um, behaviors and justifications of those behaviors. So it's like it's not enough to like get rid of like toxic frat boy culture. You can't just say like that's bad. You have to say, well, it's the girl's turn. Men were shitty, so now women should be shitty. It's like that makes no sense. That doesn't make any fucking sense at all. But that's what our culture does. It just oscillates back and forth in uh this like childish like revenge mentality. Oh no, if he did it, then I get to do it too. Oh, if she did it, then I get to do it too. And it's, it's so awful. It's so awful. It brings the worst out human mind has so much potential for greatness, and instead of using it collectively to find a way to the stars, to populate, to terraform and populate new planets, instead of doing any of that like hoity-toity, high-minded Star Trek shit, we just love to dig in the dirt at each other. Oh no. Oh no, he didn't. He didn't just say he fucks big titty sluts at frat parties. Oh no. I'm a bigger slut. I'm a bigger slut than he is. He fucked 10 bitches at them parties. I'll fuck 20 dudes at them parties. And that's where you get your fucking Lizzos and your what is it, Ice Spice and all this awful fucking hyper masculinized women, this feminist fucking nonsense. He gonna fuck my friend, I'm gonna fuck his daddy. I don't need no man. I hate that shit with passion. That's what we do instead of, learning the secrets of the cosmos, unlocking the mysteries of human consciousness. Nah. What we need is fat black girls twerking and talking about how big their pussies are, how many dudes they fucked, and how many of their own children they've murdered. That is high society. All right, shadow. Here in the background. And stuff to do. Hit the highlights, and then we're gonna get out of here. And I'm gonna go listen to Hollywood Undead. I'll walk around the park. Get my day started. Probably come back here around lunchtime. Well, no, I'm actually gonna go dig through some dollar bins at lunch today out at the local mall. There's a resale shop that has a has a dollar bin, and I'm gonna go raid it. Grab 10 or 20 new dollar bin comics to give us more content for the show. I think we are ready for our highlights. White media. Drop that in first. And that's like oops. Whites in the eyes like this. Reflection off their lips. A little bit of their eyelids. I tend to like throw like I like my girls to be, you know, slick and shiny, hairless. Yeah, I always put like reflection, like light reflections on the titties and the lips, you know, like juicy, big juicy lips. Reflections on her glasses. Maybe a little bit shoulders. Yeah. And oops, just a little bit. There we go. And then Nixon's got black hair, so I always put like a shine, kind of show the whatever shine off his black hair. Texture, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. And everybody's got. Sometimes I put irises, and sometimes I don't, depending on the feel of the panel. All these motherfuckers. It's eye reflection. That pretty much does it for the whites. Throw some on here too. A little Ziploc bag needs. I need some shade also to kind of break up these buds. I know it's a tiny little fucking detail nobody's even going to notice, but it's the little things that all add up to the big things. Just throw all in like that. And let's even add some. I haven't done the highlight layer yet, so let's add some little color variation of little nuggies back there. And let's hit these highlights and get out of here, gang. We all got shit to do. These girls have such light complected skin that there's not a lot of highlights you can even do on it. It would be these, you know, these white. You can't really even see the whites if I go in way deep there. You can see the stuff I'm talking about. The contrast of the camera is kind of killing all my whites anyway. Oh, I didn't do Nixon's. Okay. Now I got all Nixon's shit, and I can go back to the highlight layer. Sure. purpley ass, half-shaved head with some highlights. I like this book a lot. I'm really fond of Dracula and Strangeville. I've been working on it forever. I was talking in yesterday's live stream about, I took a hiatus for a few months after Ed Piskor's death and everything that fallout, everything that happened in the comics world afterward. I was sick of it. I didn't want anything to do with comics for a few months. I needed to recalibrate, get my head right. And that was kind of in the middle of making this book. And so, even though it's only 30-something pages, it's been around longer than most books. I mean, something like Space Worms took me over a year, so I was living in that world with those characters for a long, long time. Every single day, hours and hours and hours, every single day for over a year. But this book's been with me for a few more months than it really had any right to live with me, and I've grown very fond of these ridiculous characters, as I always do. By the time I finish a book, I'm always like mourning the fact that I don't get to play with these characters anymore. I just get to make brand new ones and tell more stories. That's the beauty of being a storyteller. But I always mourn the end of the road for whatever current characters I'm working on. And I think that's why I like the forever characters like Nixon and Hogan so much, is they never go away for long. And I've done many books in a row. Nixon and Hogan are pretty ubiquitous when it comes to Strangeville. They're in just about everything. But I've really ramped them up. These last few books have all been Nixon and Hogan books. My next book, my all ages book, Gigant. After I finish this, a book that I can actually put in comic book stores without feeling like I'm peddling smut to kids. It's going to be wild because there is no Nixon and Hogan in that one. So it'll be my first Nixon and Hogan comic in a while, or my first Strangeville comic in a while with no Nixon and Hogan. Don't think you can call something all ages and have drug dealers in it. That's just me. Just my opinion. A lot of people have a whole different opinion on a whole lot of things, and that's great. But for me, if I'm going to do something that potentially teenage boys latch on to, I guess teenage boys are going to latch on to whatever they're going to latch on to. Because if I do a TV series, it's going to be a Nixon Hogan TV series with the drug dealers. So, and that's going to be, well, I wouldn't say primarily a teenage boy audience, because it's going to be mostly like older, like my audience for this stuff, my ideal audience for this stuff is like the same people that watch like Robot Chicken and Rick and Morty and Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Tim and Eric and shit like that, who are like in their like late 30s, early 40s. But there is an overlap of like teenagers that get into that stuff, and I guess they shouldn't. And that the material is out of their maturity range, but that's going to happen one way or the other, I guess. And, but for me, if I'm going to put stuff in comic book stores, I need to clean it up a little bit. You might not agree with that. You might think that full force satirical, absurdist smut like I make has a home in your local comic book shop, and I just not sure that that's the case. I'm not sure that the local comic book shop owners would want this kind of stuff on their shelves. There was a time when comic shops were terrified to put outlaw style comics on the shelves because they started getting arrested for it. They're carrying the stuff. That has largely gone away. Like there is no moral authority chasing after deviant cartoonists anymore, like there was in the underground comics days. Those days are long over. And these new comic book shop owners, they probably don't even know of a world where the content they carry might land them in the slammer. But for my own peace of mind, if I'm going to put something in a comic shop, I don't want it to put anybody in jail. I don't want it to corrupt the youth more than it already will. I mean, my stuff, even Gigant, which is, quote unquote all ages, is still a deranged, hyper violent story about a Bigfoot genetically modified by aliens and a cult that worships it and trips off its blood while keeping it captive. And the unfortunate group of young people who stumble upon the Bigfoot and the cult and the aliens. And it's going to be a nutso strange comic, but it's just not going to be hardcore pornography. That kind of stuff you'll have to get behind the Patreon paywall, the porno paywall, as it were. And yeah, so you get a hold of that stuff. And again, if I get this to like when I do the 1 minute animations, if I'm ever able to get around to doing that, that stuff won't be hardcore. It'll have it'll have drugs and cussing, I guess, all the fun stuff, but I can't put pornography on YouTube. So it'll be toned down, scaled back. I guess I'm kind of setting myself up for that inevitability that things are going to have to change in Strangeville as we try to bring this thing more mainstream, as it were. Might start watching those Clip Studio animation tutorials this week, as a matter of fact. I want to start playing with that. At least do one animated episode. That would be neat. It's a ton of work, though. Ton of work. Way more work than it. This is, the most labor-intensive work I've ever done as a storyteller. Writing ain't shit. Making comics or making movies, that was really labor intensive, but it was a lot of it was collaboration with other people who were also working hard. This is just me just toiling away, hours and hours and hours and hours of work going to making a comic that takes about 10 minutes or less to read. Well, in my case with my stuff, it's so dialogue dense that it probably takes 20 minutes to read this stuff. All right. think this page is done. Just going over everything one last time. Make sure everybody got their shading and their highlights and their spotted whites. Took out everything. Let's go over the dialogue. One last pass on that. Yeah, in fact, the guy throwing this shindig, Count Keef, I mean Big D, we call him that because he's got the biggest dick in the room. He personally invited you guys because he heard how much you guys beat your Rodneys together. Should Rodneys be capitalized? I don't think so. That you have the best weed in all Strangeville. Well, he's damn sure right about the second part. Yeah, that old Colombian smoke weed gonna fuck Mr. Big D right the fuck up. You watch. That should be an exclamation point. Gotta pay very close attention to the grammar here in these stoner comics. I sure hope so. We want this party to die. Yeah, okay. Say, bitch, don't I know you from somewhere? Didn't you used to suck my dick for weed back in high school days? Yeah, I can't believe you remember me. Oh, that was like 20 years ago. That should be. You don't put the numbers. You put 20. Well, that was like 20 years ago, and you don't look like you've aged a day. Got this whole new goth look thing going on. Well, you know, big booty goth bitches are all rage these days. All right, I think this page is finished. That is page 20 of 27, I think. So, good for us. Cranking them out. All right, gang, that'll do it. Remember that you can read this comic, Count KEEFULA, on Patreon on October 1st, and that Patreon link is in the description. Sign up for just $2.99 a month. You get access to all my other comics, novels, and movies like Too Many Dabs, Wizard of Ganj. These books are available digitally through my Patreon right now. So check those out. I'm going to go for a walk, go head out to the dollar bin, and dig around a little bit, and I hope I see you there, gang. Until next time, keep on digging.